Welcome back to another episode of the Grunge Bible Podcast. This is episode 10. I am Chris Salona, and I'm joined, as always, by Ethan Shalloway. Ethan, what's the word?
Bird is the word. And
that is what they say.
We're excited to be back. It's another good week to be a grunge fan and be a part of Grunge Bible family. So, yeah, we're excited to talk. We got a great episode lined up.
Absolutely, we do. So with it being the 10th episode, as we alluded to in episode 9, there's really only one area that we can go for this 10th episode, and that is 10.
Absolutely is. There's no doubt about it. Talked about it. Easy call. So
exactly.
Today, dedicated to Pearl Jam.
The Pearl Jam debut album from 1991. We're really excited to talk about that. It's turning 30 later this year, which is quite old. We're all really old. Than us. Yeah, that is older than us. So in case you didn't know, yep, we are posers. But I think you knew that, and if you're with us, you can overlook that. And we
they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. It doesn't matter.
They don't care.
Anyways,
I don't care.
Yeah, no, I don't either. It hasn't stopped us so far, and it's sure as hell not going to stop us on episode 10. But no. Today we're recording this on Tuesday, May 18th, and we would be remiss if we didn't just quickly mention that, today, the 18th, is the 4th anniversary of the passing of Chris Cornell. So, I've been thinking about Chris today, listening to a lot of his music, and I was really just kind of thinking that, all of our musical experiences as fans, and as, consumers of that specific art, how much of an impact he had on us and continues to have on us. And, I don't think many of us would, be fans of this music if it weren't for Chris. And, I think a lot of us, maybe our lives wouldn't be, how they are if it wasn't for Chris and his music. So we're definitely thinking about Chris today and, all of the Soundgarden fans, Audioslave, Temple of the Dog, Chris Cornell solo fans, and, all of his bandmates and everybody who knew him and his family. Tough day.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I remember the morning that we got the news, and I had my old boss had texted me and said something, and I instantly had texted you and started talking about it. And it was clearly a hard thing to wrap your mind around, your head around it.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure was. I remember, I think I had been out drinking the night before. So I woke up, around like 6:30 in the morning to, take a swig of water and, get back to sleep because I needed it. And I looked at my phone as you often do, and I had a notification. I forget from who or from what. And I just saw Chris Cornell. I saw his name. And then I think they said, that he was found dead, and it just didn't make any sense. I was like, wait, what? Because I was still groggy. I was like half asleep, and, I did not end up going back to sleep after that. Just started listening to his music, and I think I texted you and a few other people, but tough day. And, it's crazy to think it's already been 4 years since he's been gone.
Yeah, it's truly, truly sad. And we think about him often. So I think we can all agree that we'll be playing a lot of Soundgarden, a lot of Chris Cornell today, and just be thinking about him as we do often.
Absolutely. So today, as we said, we're going to get into a little bit of 10. And this episode, as always, is made possible by our top-level Patreon supporters. We've got a little bit of a big four going right now for that top level. And that big four, it's not Lane, Chris, Kurt, and Eddie. It's Sonny Mashburn, Victor Schaefer, Shannon Gorgone, and Alexis Shannon. So to you four, thank you so much. You guys are just as awesome as the big four of the Seattle grunge scene, and we thank you very much. And additionally, we have a new supporter of the cause. A new patron has joined up, and their name is Reed Potts. So thank you very much, Reed, for joining up here. We're really thankful, and we'll have a little bit more on the Patreon program later on in the episode if you are interested. But now, I think it's time to talk 10.
Let's do it.
And for me, it doesn't get any better than 10 for me.
No, this is my favorite Pearl Jam album. I mean, a lot of people will try and make arguments for the other ones, but this just screams Pearl Jam to me, and it has every reason that I love the band. And it's just a front to back album, something that I love to do, and I love front to back albums. It's something that where you don't skip any songs. There's not many that I don't enjoy. So yeah, it's just it's a full package, and I love that. I love when artists can do that, and especially a debut album. That's even better. You just get, it's just the raw. It is, in my eyes, it is Pearl Jam.
I agree.
And it's just iconic album art, everything about it.
Yeah, it's hard even to know, where to begin with this album and just how special it is. And I think you used a good word, when you just said that, how raw it is and how there's just so much intensity bottled up, that was bottled up going into those sessions that just kind of exploded, because, you think about those people in the band and, Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament, they had just suffered the loss of Andy Wood from Mother Love Bone, and they were playing a little bit, trying to figure out what to do next. And you had Mike McCready pop in, who had given up playing for a few years. I think he had started to go to community college. He cut his hair, and he got back into the music playing scene. And you had Dave Cruzen, who was drumming at the time, actually, for Pearl Jam. He was their first drummer. He was in there. And then, a little known surf bum from San Diego named Eddie Vedder, hightailed his way up the coast. And, it was just really such a magic, period of time for the music and for those musicians, where they were all able to come together. And, Stone had a bunch of demos that he had been creating, after Mother Love Bone had ceased to exist after Andy Wood passed away. A lot of those were actually, I think, originated as Mother Love Bone demos, and it just kind of all came together. But you talk about a crowd of people, Ethan, it doesn't get much better than those five and what they all brought to the table at the time. One thing that I like to think about with this record is, they got together in, March and April of 1991 to put this thing together. And if you think about the musical landscape there, this was pre Nevermind, this was pre Bad Motorfinger, so grunge, as we say, had not broken through. And I'm thinking about what the biggest bands in the United States would have been at the time. Guns N' Roses, they were still huge. The Black Crowes had released Shake Your Moneymaker in 1990, and they were being touted by a lot of critics as, being the next standard bearer for rock music. And these guys just went into the studio, and nobody knew at the time, what was going to come of it. And, they were billed as Mookie Blaylock at the time. And, that first song, you just said earlier, you love front to back records. And this is certainly one of them. If you dropped your cassette in 1991 or your CD or whatever, the first track that you get is Once. That song, and we're talking about intensity and just, everything just exploding at one time. Once is all of that.
Yeah. Eddie Vedder just absolutely crushing. Yeah, it is. It's one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs, I think. It's just the way, I think the way that the kind of the guitar kind of dictates, and there's a little bit of like a, I don't know, like an up and down to it, and just, it's just really well put together. And Eddie does his part and just, I don't know, hammers it home as he always does. But and the lyrics are really just awesome too. Kind of.
Absolutely. And with this one, this was actually a part of the 3-track demo that Eddie Vedder got his hands on from Jack Irons, who was a drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So sometime in 1990, I believe, Jack got this demo from Stone, and somehow ended up seeing Eddie Vedder, down in San Diego, and gave it to him. And this was the first song on that demo. It was the songs that would become Once, then Alive, and then Footsteps. And Eddie Vedder kind of made this mini opera that is referred to as the Mama Son mini opera. And it's just kind of this, this whole thing about, this person going on a murderous rampage after finding out that their father is not actually their father. And then Footsteps is, the aftermath of all of that. And just to get a demo, and this is why I would never be a good songwriter, to have that blank canvas, and however that music spoke to you at the time. And, Eddie Vedder heard that instrumental track, really rough instrumental from Stone. And, to result with a song like this and just that intensity is really, really impressive. But yeah, I like what you said, just kind of like it builds and then it falls down a little bit. And then like the guitar comes back and then the drums come in and that end of the song right after he says, he's like, you think I got my eyes closed, but I'm looking at you the whole fucking time. And then he just goes in. I mean, this was the best era of Eddie Vedder just yelling about everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. All 11 songs on the album. And, there's little tidbits you just said, or it's great. It's definitely, this is right up your alley, Pearl Jam enthusiast.
Oh yeah, this is right down Broadway.
I didn't know those. You said the footsteps and the footnotes of those demos and.
Yeah, and just as a disclaimer, we don't claim, and I certainly don't claim to be the seat of all Pearl Jam knowledge. All of this stuff, all of the historical, chronological things, just go on Wikipedia and read about them. If you're
for all
interested.
The aggregates out there, if we're mess not gonna, things up or misspeak.
Actually, it was April and May, not March and April. But nevertheless, I mean, once and then the best part is as soon as once ends, you go into even flow. I mean, one thing that I always like to think about with records, and we can get to this in a little bit after we speak about the third song, is like on a record, the first 3 songs of that record. And I mean, with this one, it's like you've got once, even flow, and then right into Alive. I mean, it's hard to beat that, 1, 2, 3. And I love having that conversation. But I mean, with even flow, I mean, one of their most iconic songs. I have a feeling, we'll be able to say that about a lot of the tracks on this album. But I mean, even flow. I mean, for all of the Eddie Vedder impersonators over the last 30 years, like
that's the most.
That's the most, that and probably Alive. But I mean, just another one that even flow. I'm always drawn to just the rhythm guitar and Stone, that riff that he came up with right at the beginning, and just how Mike fits into it. And I'm always a really, really big lyrics guy. And Eddie Vedder, right from the get-go, was writing about some pretty heavy stuff, and this one is just kind of about homelessness and a lot of different things like that. And one quote that I pulled from 1994 that Eddie Vedder said, he was at a concert in 94, and he said, right across the street there's a little homeless community that lives under the bridge. You should just know that these people aren't all crazy, and sometimes it's not their fault. And he kind of wrote this song in that vein of the challenges that people deal with, and a lot of times, I mean, in life, you're dealt hands that you didn't ask for and you didn't deserve. And I think with Pearl Jam, they've never really been afraid to approach different issues through their songwriting and through their lyricism, and this is certainly an example of that. But where does Even Flow for you stack up in terms of favorite Pearl Jam songs? Is it up there, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. It is. It's something that comes on and definitely gets your head kind of bumping, and it's one of the songs that I used to jam with my friends, actually, when we first got to Pittsburgh. And actually Drew was there. A little anecdote. It was actually a group of people. I had a tutor for an astronomy class that there was a storage unit that they kept like all of their instruments in. Yeah. And it was like really common for bands to be up in this storage unit, and we would go and jam there. And we took one of our friends, and he was a huge grunge fan and loved singing Eddie Vedder and Lane Staley and Scott Weiland. He loved like giving those songs a go. So, and Even Flow was one of his favorites. So we'd go up there and we jammed it a lot. And it definitely has its radio play for good reasons. But we would jam it, and it's just such a fun song to rock on the drums and to kind of play. And so I've always really enjoyed listening to it, because I just kind of play along with it. And it's like, so I'd say, I mean, it has to be one of my favorites, just for pure, I've listened to it probably the most of. Yeah.
I mean, it's unavoidable on FM radio, as you said, I can think of at least 2 or 3 other songs on this record that are, pretty unavoidable.
Alive and Jeremy. Yeah.
Yep. And Jeremy, and, Black to a lesser extent as well. But I mean, then you have Even Flow, and then you go right into Alive, which I think if there's one song that kind of explains what Pearl Jam is, like if aliens landed on Earth tomorrow, they're like, what is it with this Pearl Jam band? Like, tell me about them. if that would be their priority. I don't know. I think there might be some other things on the list, but once they got to understanding rock music, I think I would show them Alive. And just once again,
where do you put Alive for your in your list?
So my all-time favorite Pearl Jam song is on this album, but
yes.
it's not Alive.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's not Alive, but just in terms of I don't know, this song, whenever it comes on in the car, the volume goes all the way up, and it's just Stone with that initial lick, and then as soon as the drums come in, and just the way that Dave Cruzen is playing the drums on it, it's just like, it's just great. You just can't help but like get into it a little bit,
and then scream and then sing with Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm Still Alive, and it's funny too. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's something about like the simplicity of the lyrics to be able to sing along with it, like just the way that he sings the chorus.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it did so well, and that's why
absolutely
it's an amazingly catchy song that people love.
Yeah, and you're thinking about this song, and your casual listener, or even people who don't really pay much attention to lyrics, which is totally fine. You wouldn't really glean what the message of this song is until you maybe did some reading or really, really listened. I know I didn't for a long time. I mean, he's screaming, "I'm still alive." So you got to figure, it's some sort of like anthemic proclamation that you're still alive. And he had a good quote later on, back then, he had written it, about his family and the fact that his father had passed away, and he didn't know that his father was his biological father. He thought his stepfather was his biological father, and coming to terms with that as a teen, young adult, maybe 13, 14-year-old, and he said much later on, this is probably 20, 25 years into his career, he's like, people sing this when I sing it, they sing along with me. It's like they're celebrating that they're alive, whereas when I wrote it, it was almost like I was cursed that I was alive. And he said through their singing, through their celebration, they changed the meaning of the song for me, and they lifted the curse, he said. And that's, I mean, music doesn't get more powerful than that.
Yeah, that's really, I remember first talking to you about this, and you had told me about it, and I was like, I had no idea, because like you said, just a casual listener, and you kind of make your own interpretations as a as a listener versus the writer. So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and this song,
that's a great anecdote.
Yeah. And this song is probably the best one that you can hear at a Pearl Jam show, because they always play it towards the end, and as they're playing it, they put the house lights on, and everybody is just going ape shit, just screaming at the top of their lungs, "I'm still alive." Like, it doesn't matter if you know or don't know the people next to you. You got your arms around them. You're just belting it out. And I know we've had a couple of really good experiences at Pearl Jam shows with the people next to us, with this song, and it's just a party. And like Ed said, it's a celebration, of sorts nowadays, and it's really, really powerful song. One that I think this song is unbreakable for me. You know how it gets some songs can get a lot of airplay, and then they just don't do it for you after a while. I don't think this one could be broken for me, but I don't know.
Yeah, it comes on, and you're just like, here we go. Turn it up and let it go.
Absolutely. It's
let Eddie Vedder take the wheel.
So good. And this was the first single off of the album, and this predated the album release. The single was released in July of 91. I don't think the album came out till late August of 91. So this was Pearl Jam's first official release, I guess, at that point. But moving on the record, we've got
next
Alive.
One
goes right into Why Go. And Ethan, why go home?
Why go home? And we love this one. We love saying that after a long night together. I remember, and after the Pearl Jam concerts, we'd look at each other and like, why go? Like, what are we doing now? It's like, why go home? And there's no reason we had to keep the party going. But, do you want to give us a background on this one too? I feel like
absolutely.
Kind of rolling here.
So once again, no inside sources. This is just from the open forum of the internet. But with this one, once again, if you listen to the lyrics, past the chorus, a lot of it is kind of alluding to somebody who, may be put into a mental institution. And in 1991, Eddie spoke about this song, and he said, people who don't really pay a lot of attention to their kids and don't really know how to deal with them just end up putting their kids in hospitals. And if you listen to the lyrics, particularly I think the first two verses this song, you can kind of hear, just different parts about that. They want her to be weak. She could play pretend. She could join the game. Why go home? Because you're here and we can kind of mold you into what we want you to be. And once again, even with Eddie Vedder, so prior to Pearl Jam, he was in a band called Bad Radio, and he would write a lot about social issues and things like this, and certainly banter. He's always been a banterer when he's performing, in between songs and everything. And, for the first record, he certainly didn't shy away from talking about things, that he wanted to talk about. And the band as well, you had some fairly seasoned musicians as a part of that band, to give him the wheels, or, give him the keys to writing the lyrics. I think it really worked out quite well. But yeah, this one gets overlooked a little bit, but definitely a favorite between, yourself, and me, definitely, just because of the tagline. We'll be out late, like bars will be closing down or the concert's over, and just why go home.
And you can yell this one as well, like all of these songs. You can just yell, "Why go home?
All of
why
them.
go home?"
Absolutely.
And it's just a beautiful. I love that. I love, because I also love the idea of connecting with, like, kind of traveling, and when you're kind of moving, because we moved across the country, the two of us, for different reasons, and obviously home has a very specific place. But I love the idea of going out and adventuring, and where's the next place to go?
Yeah.
And it's like I don't want to go home yet. I just want to keep traveling.
Why go there
home?
yet? There's always more experiences to get, and obviously, I don't think Ed wrote about it like that, but that's the best part about music, is because we can hear it and be like, hey, this applies to our lives in this way. And I know we've done that with most of these songs, and especially with this one. Like, I remember a couple of instances, I'd be at an airport or something, like flying home, and I'd text you, or I'd be listening to the song and be like, why go home? Like, let me get another flight somewhere else and see what else is going on. So with the record so far, you've got song after song after song of just absolute intensity and destruction, and then things kind of slow down a little bit with this next track, Black, which I think is one of your favorite Pearl Jam songs, right?
Yeah, this is my favorite live. Well, I guess there's one other song, but this, as far as like a live performance, what I enjoy watching, whether it be on YouTube or when we've been to the shows, whenever this one comes on, I always feel like I get affected the most, and I'm just able to connect with just the atmosphere that the song and the way that it kind of that the guys set it up. I think there's a great build. It's just a beautiful when we were in Fenway and they turned off all the lights, and they brought it down for Bronson.
Bronson Arroyo, ex-baseball pitcher, played on this one. Yeah, and I think with the live performance of this one, the first thing I think about is Mike McCready and the solo that he turns in on this one. His live solos for this are so much better than his studio solo, just because you get that emotion when you're in there. Oh my gosh, and even the unplugged performance of this is probably my favorite of their unplugged set, and just the way that the emotion is there, and once again, I'm always drawn to the lyrics, and with this one, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. I know you'll be the star in somebody else's sky, but why can't it be mine? How that is depressing as hell. That hurts, and it ties in.
But it's so poetic. It's so
absolutely,
poetic.
And it ties in perfectly with another quote. And this is from the Pearl Jam 20 documentary. Ed was talking about this song, and it's just such a. This one just sears, man. And he was talking about it, and he said, the song's about letting go, and it's very rare for a relationship to withstand the Earth's gravitational pull and where it's going to take people and where they're going to grow. I've heard it said before that you really can't have a true love unless it was a love unrequited. And it's a harsh one, because then your truest one is the one that you can't have forever. And like, that's the kind of quote, and this is the kind of song that if you're hurting, if you're in your feels, you got to stay away from this one, because this one puts the nail in the coffin, man.
Yeah. Especially you can't put on a lyrics video on YouTube and expect not to.
And this is one, like, if you go on YouTube with this one, you just see people, spilling their feelings in the comments, it's unbelievable how, 5.5 minutes of music with some singing over top of it can emit that strong of an emotion. And, in my opinion, it's not even the most emotional track on the record, which is unbelievable. But this one, Epic Records, who they were signed to at the time, they wanted to put it out as a single. And Ed was like, no way, man. He's like, this is too personal, and it would just lose its meaning if it just got played to death over the radio. Of course, it didn't really stop them as in the years that followed. This one gets played a lot. The local rock radio station that I have does something on Tuesday called Double Shot Tuesday, where they just
every rock station
you have to. I don't know why I'm putting the qualifier that it's mine. Yeah, exactly. And so they'll play 2 songs.
And if
from
they
every
don't,
artist.
they're not a real classic rock station. Double Shot Tuesday, baby.
They don't get it. And it seems like my radio station, they always play Black as a part of the Pearl Jam Double Shot.
Yeah.
With
usually, Alive or with the
it's like Alive into Black or something to bring you down. But man, this is I think they played this at the first Pearl Jam show that we saw, which was in Fenway in 2016. I don't believe they played it at the second one. But this next one, we have not seen them play this one live, I don't think. Jeremy.
I think that's one of the ones that have been excluded. I was going to ask you which out of the 11 songs have we seen live? Probably around
I think we've seen a lot of them, because some of them they're just hits. We've seen Even Flow, we've seen Alive, we've seen Why Go, we've seen Black, and then moving on, Porch. They play at every show. I think we saw Garden
Release
at Wrigley. We didn't see Deep, and we saw Release. So we've seen most of them, and that's kind of because at this point Pearl Jam they do make a really good effort to play a lot of the more popular songs, but I mean their catalog is so big, I don't even know how they would begin to decide, how Ed sits down and decides what to play and what not to play. That's something that's always been confusing but interesting.
Well, and you've seen the set list, there's a lot of cross outs and there's a lot of add-ins, and that's awesome. You gotta love when bands do that, and bands are capable of doing that, to be able to hey, like Audible, we gotta play Red Mosquito.
Exactly, yeah. They're so seasoned that all you gotta do is you just turn to your bandmates, give them a nod, and then you're off and running. But the next song, Jeremy, was, if you think about it at the time, probably the song that broke Pearl Jam through in the biggest way, particularly with the music video. And that music video, the one that I believe they ended up winning some awards for, was the second iteration of the Jeremy music video. Chris Cafaro actually shot and directed the first music video for Jeremy, but I believe the record company wanted to go in a little bit of a different direction. But this song, once again, you don't listen to the lyrics, you don't really know what it's about. And I know we've spoken about this, I think on the podcast before, but certainly on the page. It's about the suicide of a teenager in high school in Texas, I think in 1991, named Jeremy Wade Dell at Richardson High School in Texas. And this one is just another one that's so heavy. And it's a really heavy topic to kind of think about, and one also to write about with Eddie. And I think it's a really tough spot for the family of this kid, after whatever he may have been struggling with, and the world just kind of knows him as the guy from the song, and he was so much more than that. So I always go back and forth, and I don't know that I'm the biggest fan that this song was written just because of that, and I just think there's some privacy that needed to be given, but also you're left to your own devices as a songwriter.
Yeah, I'm sure that Eddie, I don't know how much he anticipated it being
right.
Hold the weight and just how big of a Pearl Jam song is. It is arguably one of their biggest songs and most notable. So I'm sure that he didn't.
Yeah, and he has the famous
expect it to be
right, and he's got the famous quote about this one, saying that the best revenge is to live on and prove yourself. And be stronger than the things that are keeping you down, which I think is really great advice.
And we love that
but also,
quote.
it also risks, maybe not being the most understanding of the situations people may be in. But I definitely think, as time went on, as the song got bigger, I think he probably developed more of an understanding and, of what he was writing about. And at the '93 MTV Awards, they received an award for Jeremy, and he said, actually, like, if it weren't for music, he's like, I think it would have been me, in front of the classroom. So music is really what kept me alive. So it's kind of weird, how things might come full circle, and music is just that powerful that, it can be anchors for people. And I know a lot of listeners, a lot of people that we interact with on the page, and even us, music gets you through the hard times. And I'm glad, Pearl Jam has certainly been there for a lot of people, but this is another one. It's played all the time on the radio, and it just in terms of the construction of the song, the fact that these guys got together, didn't really all know one another for that long, with Ed coming in and Mike joining, what was really, Stone and Jeff as the elder statesmen of the band. The fact that they were able to get into a room together, for a month and a half and come out with things like this is really impressive.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is, like you said, I guess there's a ton of them, highly touted songs, but just between the four that the three that we've talked about, between Alive, Even Flow, and this one, there's the most heavily radio played songs, and it came off their first album. So like you said, the instant chemistry between the guys withstood the test of time.
Yeah, for sure. And moving on to the next one, we've got Oceans, and Oceans, I don't really know that it does it for me. It's a great song, and it's got a great backstory. I don't know if do you know the story as to how Eddie Vedder ended up writing the lyrics to Oceans?
I do not. This song, I would say, and they don't all have to do it for us,
right?
So it's okay that we have that. So I love to hear the people that say that this is their favorite song, and love to hear their takes. But
exactly, and why
I don't have a big a big background on this song.
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of the construction of the song, this almost feels like it would make more sense on a record like No Code or Vitalogy, as opposed to 10, just because it feels a little bit experimental and it's a little bit more airy, than everything else that's on the record. But I think in a way it's brilliant to include something like this on the record, just because, you're just driving for so long, and then this one kind of lets you down a little bit. But the story behind this, and of course at this point nobody knows if it's if it's lore or if it's actual settled history, but as the legend goes, according to the powers that be, they were in the studio recording, and Eddie Vedder had to go outside to move his car or to maybe put some change into the parking meter, and it was raining. And then he got locked out of the studio. So he's outside and he's banging on the door to try to get in. And through the door, he could hear the bass line to, I guess, what would eventually become Oceans. And he couldn't really hear a whole lot else. And he pulled out a piece of paper and just wrote the lyrics down. So once again, that's what the story goes for this song. But I mean, you think about how inspired of a time was, where even things like that, like you get locked out of the studio and you end up writing a song. Because you can hear the bass line coming through. I mean, those
do you believe that? Do you believe the story?
I don't know. I really don't know. Because one, it's been so long ago, and two, I mean, if I was in that situation, I would totally embellish. I would totally come up with these wild stories about how I wrote this record. I mean, it'd be awesome,
Revisionist history. You can go back and be like, oh yeah, this is the time that I got locked out of the studio.
You can say whatever you want.
I didn't have any change in the parking meter.
So who knows if it's actually true? And I'd love it for it to be true, because that's pretty awesome. But this another one. The lyrics are just really, really incredible. And for me, like I said, it's kind of like a throwaway one for the album for me. But still, you don't skip it. You just can't skip it. And this next one is completely unskippable. You never skip Porch.
No, you can't.
This one skip Porch.
This one has a great set of lyrics again, and something that that we talked about that you almost had permanently put onto your body.
Yeah, it was almost my first tattoo. I almost got Porch. And I think for me,
was it just? Yeah, I guess it was just the word.
I was going
Porch.
to just get the word Porch because why?
Well,
Porch?
I thought maybe for a second you took the "Hear My Name, Take a Good Look" and you were going to get that.
That's why I love the song is that lyric of like, "Hear my name, take a good look. This could be the day," because I mean, we
talk about that a lot.
We talk about that a lot in athletics and training and everything. And we go into competition in college, and we'd always text back and forth, and we're competing at the same times of the year, and I'd always be like, "Hey, like, hear my name, like, take a good look. Like this could be the day that I that I achieve everything that I've been working for." And that song kind of took on that meaning for me. Is I ended up I wrote Porch like on my shoes. For competition and everything. And, it doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but I'd see the word Porch, or I'd listen to the song and be like, all right, like, why not me? Why not today? Why not now? And And I can't imagine, I don't think Eddie Vedder was writing it about that, but that once again, another great example of, we heard that song and yeah, it was almost my first tattoo. I was almost going to get the word Porch tattooed, and who knows, maybe I still will. I don't know. I've been itching to get another one. So who knows, maybe we'll turn back the clock. But this one, I think for the last, several years, they've played this pretty much at every single show. I think it's before their first little break. So we've seen it twice, but I mean, it's nothing like it was in the 90s. I mean, if I had a time machine, if I could see one song, I mean, I definitely, think about choosing this one at like a Pink Pop or something, or maybe Drop in the Park in Seattle in the early 90s, just to watch Eddie Vedder climb the rafters.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, beautiful song live. And yeah, I've definitely seeing it back then, seeing his craziness, or seeing the unplugged version and them, it would have been spectacular. But I'm glad we got to see it when we did and see it.
Yeah. And I just wonder,
3 years ago now,
if you could place yourself in the position of one of the other band members in the early 90s and maybe the first time, or it doesn't even matter if it was the first time, and you're drumming, during the bridge, and Mike and Stone are going back and forth trading licks or whatever, and you look up like to your right and you just see Eddie Vedder just monkey barring around like 35 feet above the stage. What, I can't imagine that was something that you could just look at and be like, oh, that's fine, like he'll come down eventually. Like, I would have been terrified every single time that something horrible was going to happen.
When you frame it like that, to be sitting back there and to be trying to keep your groove, I don't know. It would be difficult. It'd be like, oh yeah, he's fine. Like he does this. Like,
well, here's the thing. Like,
that's just Ed being Ed.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's fine. But like, if Ed falls, like, there's only two results. One of them is he's severely injured, and the other one is like he breaks his neck. There's like, I don't know how you would get out of that. Like,
and then
if
we
you
don't
slip
have
or you
any
fall.
of the other.
Yeah. Like, what do you do like in the middle of a show? And I mean, Ed was in his like mid to late 20s, and I can certainly relate to, wanting to just lay it on the line and be adventurous. And I mean, in terms of being a showman, for music, I mean, that was Ed's calling card at that time. And that made Porch such a can't miss song, have to play song, just because of, his acrobatics. But that would terrify me. I think it would also terrify me if I was in the pit or something, not because like, oh shoot, he's going to fall on me. Maybe that too, but like, what if this guy falls? Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's so wild to think that.
Yeah, I always think
he
about
did that. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Of course, there's other people have done some stuff similar, I'm sure, but
yeah,
nothing as iconic. Nothing. There's no better picture, no better Pearl Jam picture than him hanging on the rafters. And
yeah, and there's one really iconic picture. I think Lance Mercer took it exactly of that. It's from the back of the stage, and all you can see is like Eddie Vedder's back just in front of this massive crowd, and he's hanging on the rafters, God knows how high. But I mean, what a great song. It's one of those moments where, the actions of the musicians on stage just kind of add to the lore of the song, but really, really a great one. And then the next song is Garden, the Garden of Stone. I'm a big fan of this one.
This is a really good song, yeah.
Yeah, and once again, being the lyric person that I am, the first lyrics to this song are, the direction of the eye, so misleading, the defection of the soul, nauseously quick. I just want to know, like, who hurt this man?
Yeah. The direction of the eye of
so misleading,
the defection of the soul, nauseously quick. Yeah, Ed had a gift for sure.
Yeah,
clearly
he really did, and just like
they're all so lyrically inclined, but he has some. He might be at the top, I'd say.
Yeah,
as far
it's so hard because I was listening to
I'm thinking about it, and it's hard to.
That's such a hard conversation to have. Like, I was listening to Soundgarden earlier today on my run, and I forget which song I was listening to, and I was like, damn, Chris Cornell was the best lyricist. And then now I'm thinking about Garden by Pearl Jam. I'm like, wow, like Eddie Vedder's got to be the best. I'm sure.
Every song we talked about some of the lyrics, like you've given a line or two, so it's like, okay, well,
yeah. I mean, he was just on such an incredible level with this song, and just another one like, you know, I Don't Need What You Have to Give. I mean, that one, this song is always in my mind related to Corduroy for that reason. It's like, I don't need what you had to give, and then on Corduroy it's like, I would rather starve than eat your bread. And it's just like a rebuke of people that we don't need in our lives, or things that we don't need in our lives. And I think it was I would rather starve than eat your bread. I actually used that once, rebuking somebody. So that was good. That was important. It was the only time I've ever I got the point across. But
I thought for sure, I remember that now, but I thought for sure you were going to say that you used that in the paper, in like a college paper. You used some Pearl Jam lyrics.
I should have. I did write a paper. I did write a paper about, I forget which song. I think I wrote a paper about Release. I took a rock history of rock and roll, like the end of my senior year, just because I needed like a 2-credit class, and you got to write about any song. I believe I wrote mine about Release, which we'll be talking about very shortly. But yeah, Garden, evidently, this one, the backstory about it was kind of written about the Gulf War, and something just about, you know, deception by government and different things like that. But evidently he was with Chris Cornell and Stone Gossard when he got the inspiration to write this song. But that's another weird thing to think about Seattle back in the early 90s, is just all of these guys who now are, you know, gods or better in the public eye. We're just all hanging out, like shooting pool together, like having some beers and, you know, just hanging out. Such a weird thing to think about.
That is extremely weird.
Like I don't know what the modern day equivalent of that would be, but
yeah, it's because we didn't see them when they were that age at all. So I'm sure that maybe for somebody older, they can, you know, it's a little bit more realistic, I guess.
Yeah. So we've got
this week we only know Eddie Vedder from the few shows, you know, the stuff we've seen him live, or the stuff that's came out like in the past like 10 years, you know.
We're
consciously fans of them.
Yeah, like I probably didn't consciously become a fan of Pearl Jam until probably 20 years into their career, which is very strange to think about. And I think a lot of people on the page, you know, there's a good amount of people who are our age. But
we get that a lot. We get a lot of people saying I'm like, young and
it's not like an amusement park ride where like you have to be so tall to ride. Like you don't have to be so old to enjoy the music. So I always hate when people are like, oh, like you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, no, I don't, but still it doesn't stop me from talking about it. So so screw it. It doesn't matter. We'll just
you don't need to listen, you don't need to like it, but still gonna talk it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Deep. This is the second to last song. Yeah, second to last song on the album. And I don't really know the background to this song in terms of like what Eddie Vedder thought it was about, or what other people thought it was about, but like most of them, I'm just drawn to Eddie Vedder just screaming like, in so deep, can't touch the bottom. This one is another one that I've kind of applied in my life at certain points.
Really?
There was this one time I was in a relationship, and I knew I was not long for the relationship. And I knew that I needed
that feeling.
I needed to do something to extricate myself from the situation. But it's so hard to do.
Realization.
And exactly. It just dawned on me, and I was like, shoot, like I got to get out. And then I think like not far afterwards, I heard this song and Eddie Vedder just screaming "in too deep," and I was like, oh shit. I was like, I'm in too deep. I can't touch the bottom anymore. And once again, just like painting a picture. I don't know if he wrote it about addiction, if he wrote it about whatever, but it's certainly applicable. This is one that I definitely don't listen to enough, I think.
Yeah, I probably only listen to this when I go front to back for the for the 10 album. Otherwise that would probably doesn't come up as much for me either. Yeah. Which is it's just one of those there's so many good songs, and songs get underplayed for no reason at all, just because there's so many of them.
Yeah. And it's so hard to what like a song like Deep or Oceans or something, what it's up against on this album in terms of fighting for, affection and airplay. Like Deep's not going to beat out Alive, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
or
what
Black,
are you going to do? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the last song on this album, in my opinion, is the granddaddy of them all.
Yeah, and I love that it's last. Wait, is there a reason that there's 11 and not 10 songs on this album?
I honestly don't know. So 10, they named the album 10 after the jersey number of Mookie Blaylock, who was a basketball player who, in case you didn't know, Pearl Jam was originally called Mookie Blaylock until I think the record company put the kibosh on that. They're like, hey, like you can't name yourself after this basketball player. So they changed to Pearl Jam, and then instead they named their first album 10 after Mookie Blaylock. Yeah. But they missed a golden opportunity. But I don't know what song. I don't know what song they would have cut. If you could cut one song from this album.
Well, it would have just been moved to the next album. So yeah. I mean, maybe the ones that we just Deep or Oceans could have fit on a different album, like you said.
Yeah, maybe later on.
Could have, yeah. But because you can't cut any.
Yeah, and it's crazy too.
You can't cut any of them really. No. So, but I always thought it was interesting that there's 11 and not just 10.
And the crazy thing about this too is they left off of this album. They left off Yellow Ledbetter, State of Love and Trust, and Breath, which have all become iconic fan favorites. So I just can't imagine being able to. Have to decide. It's
like making that mixtape, man.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about full circle.
He got 10. That was Eddie Vedder. He's like, I got a mixtape. I got to make for the whole world.
Yep.
And I have a very particular 10 songs or 11 in this case that I can put on. I only have an hour of music. And this is what he gave us for his first mixtape.
Like, this is what I have to decide. I do know. I have read before that. Yellow Ledbetter was it was a lot of Mike McCready's work, and he was kind of bummed that it was left off of the record, but I think it was included as the B-side to the Jeremy single in 1992, but and then State of Love and Trust ended up being released on the singles record, but then I don't think Breath ever got like a super proper release. I could be wrong, but yeah, I don't know. I'm glad Release made it on as opposed to any of those, because for me and for you too, Release is the big pinnacle. One. This might be the most important song like ever for me.
Yeah, I would totally agree, and I think we've kind of told the stories before, and it's come up many times through the page and through our personal journey, and then the concerts. The way that it was a prophecy, if you will, that they were going to open up with this song, and then and your Pearl Jamly would everybody would stand up together and get right into it, hands around each other, and
we had a great experience. So just like you said, our first Pearl Jam show that we attended was in 2016 at Fenway Park. It was the first of 2 shows they played there that year, and Release by that time had already been cemented as the most important Pearl Jam song for us, and it wasn't even close. Mm-hmm. And we knew that they usually only play it to open concerts, so we knew that we were going to find out pretty early if they were going to play it that day or not. And one of our friends at the time had told us, he's like, they're going to open with Release, and we're like, how do you know? Like, they open with so many different songs, like you don't really know what's going to happen. Like I think they had just opened with it at their previous concert, their previous stop in the tour, and we were standing there, and we were so far in the back, so like we couldn't really even see the stage too much. And all of a sudden, I think they played over the loudspeakers. They played a little bit of Bab O'Reilly, and then you heard Eddie Vedder saying, Eddie Vedder said like, crank that shit or something, like, here we go. And then Bab O'Reilly stopped, and then Stone started playing Release, and that was unbelievable, Ethan. Like I kind of get chills just kind of thinking about it, because of how much that song meant to us and still does, and just the fact that if they could only play one song that day, that was the one we wanted them to play.
Yeah, and I think that the reason being, I mean, that song for so many people is a way to come to terms with change and loss and different things, and that's kind of how we, of course, connected with it when we were making a change in our lives and moving from schools and moving states and changing a trajectory in our early 20s. I mean, that was exactly that, and it sang the perfect song for us. I mean, it struck the right chord where we were able to, have something to kind of to scream and to let everything out and it was, it's also like an emotional release too, where you you can yell freely and just emotional vomit, as they say, just kind of just get it out.
Absolutely.
And just be like relieved with that.
Yeah. And you make a really good point too with what this song, means to a lot of people. Cause I know I've spoken with so many people who have directly mentioned this song as, being helpful with maybe getting over the loss of a parent. I know that's a big one, or, getting over the fact that, they may have not had a great relationship with their parent or parents, and, just being able to kind of cope with that absence and just give yourself the power to, be released from whatever pain you might be having. And yeah, this one, I don't even really know how to explain it, but it is special to me for so many reasons. A lot of which we just kind of spoke about, but this one, this is the one for me. This is the song for me.
Yeah, this is my favorite Pearl Jam song. Yeah. I mean, it's just for so many different reasons, but it's just a beautiful song. It's just, honestly, it's just so much fun. There's the crescendo and like I said, it's almost like you're venting in a musical way and just asking for a release, and it's just fun. It's just a great song. It's beautiful. It's always touching.
Absolutely. And just the place in Eddie Vedder's mind and heart that it probably came from must have been so powerful and so personal too, because if you look back to the videos of him performing it in 1991, 1992, just the intensity that he sings it with. There's one video that I know it was, I think, like September of 92. He was playing in the Netherlands, and just the emotion that he sings that song with, man, is just out of this world. And obviously, it kind of touches upon some of the things that he spoke about in Alive about, not really maybe knowing his father until, after his father passed away. And, this song talks about a lot of that stuff. And I think, that may have been where it came from him. But, I'm certainly blessed, on a personal level, that this song exists and that this album exists. I mean, I'm thinking about in the chronology of music history, first albums for bands. This is, for me, this is right up there with like Led Zeppelin 1 as being like a first album. It's like announcing your arrival to the music world, that this is a band, we exist, we have things to say, and here we are.
Yeah, talk about putting your best foot forward.
I know. And setting the bar high. Come on.
Yeah, they really coming out of the gates hot and just saying like, we're here to stay, and they have. I mean,
yeah, here we are. I think 11 studio albums later, and they're celebrating their 30th anniversary of their debut album here in a few months, and hopefully they'll be playing shows in 2022 that maybe we'll be able to see. And yeah, it's weird. When a band has that type of staying power. They got together in their 20s, and here they are. I want to say some of them are really damn close to 60 now, 60 years old, which is wild. And it must be a weird feeling to still be playing the songs that you made. Yeah. That's something I always think about.
That's why they have 11 studio albums.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they keep playing, evolving.
And that's something I never understand when people give the band shit about, making albums that don't sound like 10. They already made an album that sounds like 10. It was called 10.
Pearl Jam hasn't been good since 10.
I know a lot of people say that. And in a way, maybe they haven't been as good since 10, but 10 exists. Go listen to it.
Yeah.
Like they can.
Well, we talked about this. I love it's just like sports teams. Like you got the 96 Bulls, or you got the
Warriors recently, and
and you can look back to specific dates with teams, and I just love 91 Pearl Jam, 91, 92 Pearl Jam, 10 Pearl Jam was so good, and that's fine. That's great. That's awesome. But if you're a fan of the franchise in sports and whatnot, you're with them through the whole time, and you go with them, and you can like them in different times for different reasons, and you can't expect them to be
right. Yeah. Like I will stick by Pearl Jam through the 10s and the Vitalogies, just as I'll stick by them through the Backspacers and the no codes of the world. I mean, you have to, like, thick and thin. That's the commitment that we need. You don't find it much anymore. But no, I'm just happy they're still making music.
Yeah, I'm another thinking of another band, like Dirty Heads is one of those bands I was with from the beginning and loved them. And I remember when you're such a fan and they come up with an album that you're not super fond on, and people are like, yeah, this album is just not as good. And you're like, no, it's good. It's just as good. It's just different. And I love when you can argue, because you love a band so much, you can argue that, it's different. And
oh yeah.
Even though you know that it's different, and that's fine.
Right. And that's the thing too, because different does not always mean worse. Just like different does not always mean better. I mean, that's the thing that I always go back to, is it's subjective, because I guarantee you there's people out there that Backspacer is their favorite Pearl Jam album, and maybe they don't even like 10 that much. With how many fans Pearl Jam has, this person exists. Maybe they're listening right now. And who's anyone else to say, no, you're wrong, Backspacer is objectively bad? Like, I don't think music can really be objectively bad or good, and I know I've said that a lot, but I mean, I really stand by it, because if something's valuable to somebody, if you love Backspacer, I can't tell you that Backspacer is shitty and that you shouldn't like it. Just as if I hated 10, which, I mean, I don't know how anyone could hate 10, but you won't find those people here.
yeah, you won't find them here, but I'm sure there's somebody.
Yeah.
But we get a lot of comments that say, like, Pearl Jam isn't, they aren't as good as they once were. Like, ever since 10, they haven't been as good.
Which they
it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they're a different band.
It's ridiculous to say.
And it's always funny too, because I just apply it to any other career in the sense that if you were working a career and you were asked to do the same thing for 30 years and to never change and to never challenge yourself or never move into a new area, that sounds kind of ridiculous. You probably, as a person, want to challenge yourself and explore new areas. And once a band is successful initially, like after 10 and Versus and Vitalogy, I mean, that 3-album run from 91 to 94, Pearl Jam could do whatever the hell they wanted, but financially, musically, and they did, and they earned that right. I mean, any artist should be able to freely move into the areas that they're stimulated in. And I think
we have this conversation a lot.
We do.
This comes up all the time, and it's kind of like I always think about Mumford and Sons, because they were very similar. Their first 3 albums, I believe, coming up to Babel, all very similar. But then they started doing the different, and they started adding more electric guitar and whatnot, and people can't get past it, and they like hey, just be grateful that we had the first 3 albums, and you can be grateful for different reasons that we have these. And I love that they're trying new stuff.
Exactly. Like they earned the right. I mean, they innately have the right anyways. They haven't earned it. They don't have to earn it. I mean, there's probably some craggly old geezers out there who are still upset that Bob Dylan plugged in, in the 60s. So like, just get over it, get over the fact that, Pearl Jam maybe wanted to try something different with an album like No Code, or might not want to sound the same way that they sound in their 20s. And surely you're not going to write about the same things in your 20s as you would in your 50s. You're a different person. But, not to rant on too long. I just, I can't see it their way. I can't see it once their way, that, music is not subjective, but I mean, unless 10 objectively is good. And if you don't like 10, I don't know.
Yeah. My brother asked me a few questions just to extend this a little bit more. I feel like music that is so widely popular, is it good music? Can you objectively say that anything is good, or like sound in general? But that's a different podcast, I think.
The topic for another day. But yeah, it was great. I think I'd been looking forward to talking about this album, on the podcast, a little bit more of a long form for a while.
If it wasn't clear, I mean, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with you when you, because you have a very good history and understanding behind all of these. So it was nice to kind of hear you kind of talk about it and just kind of let you go, because I mean, like I said, it's hard to keep up sometimes
Yeah,
because
little-
I have a
little
different. I think
background.
I frame all this information differently in my head than you do,
Certainly.
and it's you know that's what makes running this podcast fun is
Right,
because
yeah, it's
we're
great.
both very different, and I've talked to my brother and a few people, and like we clearly have a different style, and like this is like you know,
Yeah,
you knocked it out of the park.
And it's great too because it's like you think about there's probably some people that might be interested in, you know, learning the historical backstory, and there's other people that just want to hear about, you know, what the music sounds like, or, you know, what oddly enough what our opinions are of it or what we think about it. And, you know, I think, you know, we've been doing, you know, a little bit of that. So like we said before, you know, this is not the official chronology of Pearl Jam's debut album. Like you can go find that somewhere else, and, you know, maybe you learn something, and maybe you, I think for me, the most important thing is maybe you feel inspired to go and learn some things, or to go and listen to some music, or think about it in a different way, and, you know, just gain a different perspective. I think that's what music is there for, you know, to be able to add value to your life and maybe teach you some things along the way.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. But we appreciate everybody for, you know, riding along with us. We've got 10 podcasts now. That's
why go home.
Why go home? Why stop
Why go
podcasting? We've been doing this for almost 20% of a whole year now, I think. If my math is correct, 10 weeks. I'm bad at math, so I probably fucked that up. But yeah, it's been a great journey so far, and we're really thankful for everybody that's been listening so far. I think prior to setting up this podcast to record, we've already passed 13,000 lifetime downloads of the show, which seems like a big number. The fact that there's, you know, 13,000 times people have wanted to listen to us, and even still, people have been outstanding about supporting us, giving us feedback, liking the podcast, subscribing to it, and also supporting us in different ways. So as we spoke about at the beginning of this podcast, our Patreon page is the most direct way that you can support us if you're interested. You know, any sort of monthly dues that you choose to give us go directly towards hosting the podcast, paying our producer Drew McFadden, running the website, and, you know, our equipment that we might need, and anything that will go into making this podcast better and more consistent for everybody. Additionally, we do have merchandise available. So all of these links, as always, are on grungebible.com if you're interested about learning more. But, you know, we're really, really thankful. You know, we always say this, but it's true. You know, it's really humbling that people want to support us in those ways. And it's really humbling that people are enjoying what we're doing.
Yeah, and all we can do is continue to do our best, and every time that you guys drop a comment or drop some words of encouragement, it makes us want to do better each and every time. So, yeah, thank you for being alongside with us. Yeah, if you want to, just subscribe and pre-download each week's podcast. That helps a lot.
And be a part of the conversation. You know, we love. You know, we talked about 10 this week. You know, chime in, tell us which songs you like, which songs you don't like. And, you know, if you have any special, you know, circumstances or special moments with this music, I know a lot of us do, but I always love reading people's, you know, anecdotes about how songs affected them. And I've been doing it so far today with, you know, the anniversary of Chris Cornell's death, just kind of talking about how he's been inspiring to people. And, you know, that's really the one thing that's bringing us all together. It's the one reason why we have this podcast, is because this music is powerful, and it's impacted us in such a way. So we are really thankful for that, and we will always be moving forward.
Awesome. Well, Chris, I think we have one last thing to do before we close this podcast out officially.
I believe we do, and that is what songs
of the week.
The song of the week. And this is always something I don't really think about it until like 5 minutes before we start recording, and then I panic and I'm like, what is the song I've been listening to most this week? It has to be a good representation of my musical interests, and I panic a lot of times. But this week I actually think I have a solid one.
Don't panic, because
I'm gonna calm down.
Don't panic, it's okay.
It's Rolling by Limp Bizkit. No, it's not. It should be though. It should be.
I think we could have talked about Fred Durst more last week. That's one of the recommendations that I heard.
Yeah, we might have to do an episode on Fred Durst, or campaign to bring him on.
Yeah, that's good. We've already done an episode about all those guys, but maybe we'll do something like that. Something crazy.
We can do whatever we want. But nevertheless, my song of the week is actually a new release. It's by an artist named Damien Jurado. So I've been a fan of Damien Jurado's for a while. He's from Seattle actually, and he's kind of a I guess I would categorize him as like a folky like singer-songwriter. But I didn't know that he was coming out with a new album until I found out on May 14th, I think, which was last Friday. So I found out just looking at, the new releases, and he came out with an album called The Monster Who Hated Pennsylvania. And there's a song on there called Hiding Ghosts, which I've been listening to the album, in its entirety.
I think you
a lot.
posted that, correct?
Yes, I believe I did. I shared that the album came out, but I mean, he's a great songwriter. He's got such a unique voice, a unique songwriting voice in both, in terms of his vocal delivery. He's just really, really solid. And if you're into, kind of like folky acoustic driven music, definitely check Damien Jurado out. I mean, he's been recording and releasing music for, I want to say 25 years, maybe since the mid 90s. So he's got a really, really big catalog, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I've been listening a lot. So lock in my song of the week as Hiding Ghosts by Damien Jurado off of the new album, The Monster Who Hated Pennsylvania.
I love that. I need to look up why that's the album title.
Who is this monster and why did they hate Pennsylvania? Because as a native Pennsylvanian, are you offended by that?
Yeah, I'm a little offended. I don't understand. I think Pennsylvania is easily a top 5 state. I think it might be the best state. Clearly, yeah, I think Pennsylvania is top 5 state. Well, absolutely.
It's not as bad as Connecticut or New Jersey. So
definitely not New Jersey.
You get a lot of variety in Pennsylvania. I mean, because of how big the state is.
Yep, I think it's big. Just another reference, probably. Well, we can do a state ranking next time, but I think Pennsylvania has just a wide variety of stuff to do, a lot of elevation, yada yada.
That's something we got to do. Top 5 grungiest states. That's coming soon on the podcast.
Minnesota, probably.
Definitely not California. Oh my gosh, okay, that'd be good. Let's hear it.
Yeah, this song I actually just heard recently. Another recommendation from my boss. He threw it on, and I put it up on Porch Radio's story just the other day. But the song is called Boot Height, and it's by the band Fences.
Okay.
So Boot Height, Fences. It came out in April this year, the beginning of April.
It's fairly new then.
Yeah, and it's just really, really cool. It's got a sitar.
I love sitars.
Yeah, it's got this really echoey kind of low sitar sound. So I'm not exactly sure that it's a sitar, but a nice string instrument that
maybe
has
it's a hurdy-gurdy.
I listened to Hurdy Gurdy, man. It came on the radio. Actually, I think it was a cover, and because people cover that song.
Yeah.
And it might have been. I think it was. I know what it was. It was the Pixies. I'm pretty sure the Pixies were covering Hurdy Gurdy Man.
I know the Butthole Surfers also have a cover of Hurdy Gurdy Man, and oddly enough, Howard Stern has a cover of it too.
People cover that song. Yeah. It's a bigger song than. Maybe we can talk about the Hurdy Gurdy Man sometime too. But yeah, anyway, Boot Height by Fences. It's just a really fun song. It's just a really different sound. It's got that sitar that I'm talking about. So I posted it. I just added both these songs to our playlist again. So we have
advance notice.
Advance notice, because this podcast won't come out for another 4 days. So you're getting exclusive access. How many songs do we have on there right now? We got 1 hour and 7 minutes for the mixtape that we're giving to our girlfriends.
Yep.
If we ever got one, but
no wonder why she left me after the first date. I'm telling
Come
her,
on.
listen to Damien
Come on,
Jurado.
listen to Hurdy Gurdy Man.
Yeah, you'll love it, I promise. Yeah, maybe that's our first problem, Ethan. But
the list is looking pretty good. I mean, we got some good cool songs on there. I mean, yeah, we got Twin Size Mattress, 3 Strange Days, Hardline, To Shame About Ray, some Dinosaur Jr.
And it is a massive shame about Ray. I will say that.
It is. I think a massive shame about Ray.
This playlist just kind of proves, I don't know why, but I always kind of have the chip on my shoulder that I need to prove to the people who follow the page that I'm not a one-trick pony musically and that I have other interests. I mean, and there was a lot of good music that just came out. So just on Friday, for me at least, Damian Jurado came out with an album. J. Cole came out with his new album, and the Black Keys came out with Delta Cream, which I think I had spoken about a few weeks prior.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of good music across a lot of different genres, and you know, I'll never tie myself to one. Because grunge doesn't really even exist, you know, in practice. Which that's an episode that'll be coming soon. Why Mudhoney is the only grunge band. That's been heavily requested, so it's I think it's about time that we explain that.
Yeah, and I do like the idea that, like I said, this is just a way to kind of expand the music knowledge and understanding. So we may put songs on that. I mean, it might, and it also just might be a song that we heard on a playlist, and I'm just going to post it. I know nothing about the band, and that's happened. So anyway, check out the playlist. We'll post it up, but.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah, that wraps it up for another week of the Grunge Bible podcast. Like we said, we've got 10 in. We're having a great time doing it. We're looking forward to sitting down for number 11. Once again, we would like to thank all listeners, patrons, supporters, and otherwise friends of the internet. We appreciate all of you, and we would also like to thank our producer, Drew McFadden, who helps us with every single aspect of this podcast. We're really appreciative for his hard work on this project.
Yeah, he's all right. He does a decent job.
Yeah,
we'll probably get him on here in the near future again or something like that. Let him talk.
Yeah, pretty soon.
If he's good.
But in the meantime, let us know your favorite and least favorite tracks off of 10. We'll have some good banter over the weekend on the page about 10. And we will be speaking with you next week with episode 11 coming down the chute pretty soon. But until then, we're going to take it easy. We're going to rock and roll. We're going to listen to a lot of different music.
That's right. All right, hang in there, guys. Rock and roll.
Be well.